Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back and joining us for another week of Peacemaker. This is a Full Circle Cinema Peacemaker podcast. And I'm Ernesto Valenzuela, the lead TV editor for Full Circle Cinema. And today I'm going to be joined by our editor-in-chief, once again, Jackson Hayes.
Hello. I'm happy to be back. Thank you for having me. I know I was like the fifth choice. I was like the fifth choice, but happy to be here.
Sure. Mm-hmm. No, don't listen to him on that. Anyone who's listening, all our tens of viewers.
Okay, there was like 50 last week. Come on now.
Okay, Christian couldn't join us this week because he's busy with like dress rehearsal stuff. Real intense theater work going on. He's doing good work, but he will be missed this week. But this week we're talking about episode 5 called Monkey Dory, which I can only assume is a play on words for hunky dory. I don't know if you picked up on that, Jackson. Just thought I'd let you know.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you pointing that out to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. It's directed by Rosemary Rodriguez, and just like all the episodes, written by James Gunn. And it picks up after that really emotional moment from last week with Chris sort of breaking down, confronting his past a little bit. He's making a breakfast for himself while Eagerly watches him, and he feeds the butterfly Goff his weird jar of weird liquid stuff, which is also a focus of this week's episode. And then we get a look at Adebayo after that night also, where she's like, the work's starting to take a toll on her. The work's starting to take a toll on Adebayo and her relationship with her wife, Key. What do you think of that scene, Jackson, where we saw Adebayo sort of struggling and it's starting to take a toll on her and her relationship, and she's clearly troubled and clearly like busy with work? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so, I brought up last week how I feel as if Adebayo is the kind of, point of view kind of character, kind of the person that everyone can relate to in terms of, being normal, kind of being thrust into this superhero, crazy, supervillain alien situation. And obviously, like, it's not going well. She's not taking it well. I mean, this is not going to be easy for anybody. And I mean, it's clear to know this isn't easy on Peacemaker. I mean, he's struggling really hard. Even Economos and Harcourt are having their moments where, like, this is out of hand. Like, this is ridiculous. And it's obviously going to be harder on someone who's not cut out for this kind of work and it's not there in their forte, So I feel like, you have to feel for her. You have to feel awful. And, she's obviously kind of lashing out and not really taking care of her relationship the way she should, but it's hard to blame her when you're stuck in the middle of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I saw that as like one of the important subplots to this episode, and it starts off super early, as we noticed right in the episode. And after that, we're treated to another like slice of life workplace comedy sort of vibe of a scene, where as the whole team, it's got a Harcourt, Adebayo, Economos, Peacemaker, and Vigilante. They're going over a PowerPoint led by Murn, where he explains to everyone what the butterflies are, what they're capable of. And I think it's a good example of exposition where they give us this information naturally. We're learning it as the characters are learning it. It comes off funny. The dialogue's diegetic. It flows well. And we get some pretty humorous moments where the PowerPoint has these odd animations showing how the butterflies could go through any hole, and it shows an animation of one possibly going up someone's butt. And Peacemaker sort of just keeps on digging at Economos because he's the one that made the PowerPoint. It's a really funny scene where he finally confronts Economos, because for the past few episodes it's sort of been building up to Peacemaker finally saying like, hey, what the hell, man, you put my dad in jail, and they finally have a conversation where he's yelling at him after making fun of the PowerPoint. What do you think about the dynamic between Economos and Peacemaker, which is sort of like one of the central points of this episode, Jackson?
Yeah, I liked it. We talked about last week how Harcourt kind of got put on the back burner, and she kind of a little bit came out of that this week with some good moments. But, we finally got this kind of Economos episode, right? Where we get into his, he finally airs some of his grievances to Peacemaker, and Peacemaker also gives him some insight into how, he thinks it's just, playful ribbing. When in reality he's being a bully, and Vigilante even calls him out on it briefly, how he treated him as a kid. And it's a situation where you're like, people who just think they're joshing around, and he thinks it's kind of like this team, but he doesn't know anything else. This is all that Chris knows, and not to make an excuse for being kind of a dick, but he doesn't have that sensitive background that other people have in their life, or a nice a warm figure to show them that not everyone has to be mean, and not everyone has to make something about poking fun at somebody else. So I thought that was very I thought it was good. I thought we finally got some good moments with some characters that hadn't gotten them yet.
Yeah, and it's funny because Peacemaker goes on a sort of rant listing off everyone Economos could have framed, listing off like the people from Riverdale.
That got me. That got me real good.
That was really funny. Yeah, I like the nice Riverdale drop. That was unexpected.
Threw some NFL quarterbacks in there too, Fran Tarkenton and Joe Montana, and then was just, kept going on all these other. It was incredible. Though that's one of those bits that you think can go too far sometimes. But Gunn has that ability to just kind of like to reel it back in, and like suddenly like you start out and then it's kind of falling off maybe a little bit, and then you throw in the people from Riverdale, and you're like, oh man, like how can you not laugh at that?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And then Murn sort of reels them in again, saying, you guys want to be here all night or something? And Vigilante takes the question seriously because we continue to learn that he's unhinged. He's like, I don't want to stay if you don't have cable because Fargo's on tonight. And then Economos just tells him, Fargo isn't on time until tomorrow night, you nerd. And I thought it's just really funny dialogue all around. The chemistry with the team is like the highlight of this episode. And right from the beginning, they throw you in of all of them together again, because over the past 4 episodes, we've sort of seen them all, like in their own separate things, sort of dealing with their own issues. And now they're coming together again after that mission of assassinating the senator. They're coming together again to try and cut off the food chain of the butterflies, because with the PowerPoint that I said that Economos made, we learned the butterflies enter the human brain, they take control of them there, and it gives them enhanced strength. And so they know that they have this weird liquid that they survive off of, so they're going to go investigate a plant where they think it might be coming from. And during that moment, you were talking about, how his interactions with Economos, and then Adebayo sort of continues to carry on that thread she's had since the first episode, where she tries to humanize Peacemaker a bit and tries to teach him to, to stop bullying Economos, stop calling him Diebeard. He did what he thought was best in the moment. So what do you think of that thread of Adebayo continuing to try and, humanize Peacemaker?
Right. I mean, she sees herself in him in a lot of ways. They have not the exact same upbringing, but, she came from that same sort of, hardcore upbringing, and she found a way out of it, I mean, it seems as if Waller is not as bearing as Auggie Smith is, but she clearly sees that this guy just never got a break when he was a kid. He just never got that chance to be a kid. He never got that chance to have that soft person in his life. And she's trying to just bring out the best in him, and it's working from time to time, right? Like obviously he's way too, quick to draw and doesn't like to listen and has his own way of going about things. But she sees that in him, and she knows like he didn't want to kill those kids. He hesitated because there's heart in there, and he feels something for people who could just be stuck in a bad situation. And I think she's a great character for that reason, I mean, early on, you're confused about why she's part of the group, and then you're like, oh, well, she's a plant. Well, it's so much more than that, though. She's a real human with so many different feelings and conflicting feelings, which makes her so much more interesting than your run-of-the-mill government agent.
Yeah, she's definitely has the most humanity out of all of them. And we take a break from the team at this point in the episode to sort of focus back on Auggie Smith. And Robert Patrick continues to play a racist incredibly well. He's very dislikable, and also who gets someone who gets a spotlight is Annie Chang as Detective Sophie Song. She's a very straight-laced character. She's sort of like the most grounded character in the show, I think. She's had a minimal presence up to this point, but now her involvement in this whole conspiracy sort of thing is starting to level up. She's starting to gain more ground on what's happening, especially after Agee tells her to recheck the fingerprints. So what do you think of that aspect of Detective Sophie Song? What do you think of her role in this show so far?
She's kind of become like a badass Jim Gordon type, She's out there like, hey, I see what's going on here. Like, I know what we're doing here. Like, I'm not taking no for an answer. And obviously, she doesn't know the extent of what's going on and all of that, but like she's just doing her job, And yeah, Auggie Smith is an awful guy, but that's not the law, You can't bring him down like that. Now, I'm sure she's not too upset that he's still in prison, but she also wants to get the guy responsible for what actually happened. And, well, yes, we know that obviously the butterfly was a dangerous... Well, I guess we don't know clearly, right? But what we know that she was attacking and she was dangerous, right? And so from our perspective at this point, we think that Peacemaker did the right thing.
Yeah.
So, she obviously doesn't know that, but she's doing what she can to bring in the right person, do the right thing. And I mean, I like it. You always need that. You always need that and that antagonizing force. And in this case, it just happens to be someone trying to do the right thing, which is funny for this kind of show. Ironic.
Yeah, I think Annie Chang did a good job in channeling that sort of Jim Gordon energy, like you said. It's a great performance from her this episode. And so her role in this, like I said, has been minimal to this point, but now it's slowly gaining momentum. But then we go back to the focus point of this episode, which is the team and the team dynamic still being explored more. And there's a really funny and like humanizing scene with Peacemaker where he's trying to decide what song they should put on because Harcourt doesn't want to listen to that heavy metal he's been playing. And then Economos and him sort of start bonding over this band where he decides to like play a song that they both enjoy, and they see 11th Street Kids is the title of the song. And I thought it was interesting that Peacemaker slowly starts finding ways to relate with people, and once he finds common ground with someone, he starts opening up a little bit to them, even to someone like Economos who he was hating. So, what do you think of that whole scene in the van where they're trying to choose a song? What do you think of the dynamics there?
I love it. We're getting Peacemaker to a point where he's not just this antagonizing force. He's a man who is trying to do what's right, and he's trying to understand the situation. I mean, from everything we've seen so far, every time an opportunity comes for him to turn a blind eye, like he did in the Suicide Squad, he hasn't. He hasn't just taken the orders and gone on. That he's more complex than that, and that goes to show with his personality as well. He wants to like people, and he wants people to like him. More importantly, but he doesn't know how to, express that. And by finding common ground with Economos in this scene, he really is able to say, "Hey, oh wow, this guy isn't as bad as I thought he was. Maybe he was just trying to do his job. And everyone got screwed up just like I have in the past." And they have that buddy moment. And I think it's fantastic. I mean, that's the credit to the character work that James Gunn does creating these characters. I mean, these guys, they're so likable, and even if they're bad and they do bad things, like you can't help but root for them.
Agreed. And so like you said, you can't help but root for them. While they're out and doing their thing, going on their mission to go check out some gross butterfly goo, Murn stays behind to deal with the White Dragon situation, and he sort of he deals with this shady associate of his from the past, and they sort of touch upon Murn's past. But we know now that Murn is a butterfly. It still hasn't been addressed in this. Well, it's not addressed in the beginning of the episode, but here he is with one of his associates, and the associate sort of speaks to him like criticizing his dark past, like he's just as bad as he is, and he's like, I'm trying to move on from that, which is interesting because it's a butterfly now in Murn's place. We have to assume that the Clemson Murn who was once there isn't anymore, and that's a different person now, which is funny because I think that's what he says in the episode. I can't recall. I don't remember Jackson if he says exactly. He
mentions that he's trying to do better.
Yes.
Right. I'm not sure if he says better person or whatever he says. I'm just trying to do better or be better. One of the two. But right, I think that's one of these interesting things about the butterflies, right? We don't truly know their end game here, right? And by him saying that, it's like, well, he came into the body of an Amanda Waller type, right? A ruthless government agent who does whatever he can to succeed at his mission. And this butterfly wants to be a better person. Like, I wonder what their goal is here, and I'm really fascinated to find out because it's obviously going to be a lot more complex than we think.
Yeah, it's really shrouded in mystery, but while he's dealing with that and sort of his very secret and very shady operations to try to keep White Dragon in jail, which is sort of in correlation also with what Detective Sophie Song is doing, trying to uncover the truth. It's sort of like that whole subplot is going on while the team is doing what they need to do with the butterflies. I think James Gunn balances his story really well in his writing. Like, he's keeping all the different plot points together, like separated but together by the interconnectedness of the butterflies. That's sort of like bringing everything together. And Peacemaker. Mm-hmm. But they finally get to the factory. Harcourt takes point. She's sort of like the de facto leader when Murn isn't around. I like that. Jennifer Holland seems really comfortable in this role of authority and power. And she does a good job. And there's a humorous scene because it's Economos staying in the van, taking point with communications. And then it's Harcourt, Adebayo, Peacemaker, and Vigilante who are actually going out there. I don't know why they sent Adebayo in there, by the way. That's funny.
But not that Economos would have been any better, but
yeah. But there's this funny moment where where Harcourt and Adebayo are doing rock, paper, scissors to see who has to go with Vigilante, because Harcourt loses the rock, paper, scissors to Adebayo, and she's like, ugh. She's like, all right, me and Vigilante will go in the back, you and Peacemaker go through the front. And Vigilante's like completely unaware. He's like, what was that rock, paper, scissors about?
Such a good moment. Incredible moment. Very, very so good.
So Peacemaker and Adebayo are together, Harcourt, Vigilante are in the back. And here's what I want to talk about. Here's what I found really interesting in this episode, because there's like crazy parallels here. I'm putting on my tinfoil hat. I hope you're ready for this, Jason. I'm about to blow your mind.
All right.
This directly lifts like from the premise of John Carpenter's movie They Live, and the parallels are insane, because you got this former wrestler John Cena playing an actor, a tough guy type, who has an X-ray vision so he could see who's human and who's alien, because he's got an X-ray helmet in this episode. And then you have They Live, which also stars former wrestler Roddy Piper, who's using sunglasses to see who's aliens and who's not, and he shoots them as well. I just thought like there was too many parallels going on here for me not to bring up that this episode basically directly lifts from the premise.
And that's why you're hosting this, because you catch things like that when it'll fly right over my head.
I just thought it was a crazy parallel. Like it's exactly like the movie. He even uses a shotgun like Roddy Piper does in that film. I just wanted to let everyone know. And if whoever's listening, if you haven't seen They Live, you should watch it. It's an amazing film. But what'd you think of that whole action scene? Because Adebayo's like, hey, Peacemaker, I need you to be chill, all right? Just be chill. And Peacemaker's like, I'm chill. He's like, activate X-ray helmet. And then she goes to talk to the receptionist, and then right in the middle of her talking, he just blows her brains out. She's like, why'd you do that? He's like, X-ray. He's like, there's a butterfly in there. He's like, I could see their brains. I mean, she's like, I thought you were gonna be chill. He's like, I am chill. Do I not look chill?
He's so to the point, you know. Like he doesn't see blowing people's heads off as not being chill. Like obviously he is here to do one thing, right? To do whatever needs to be done. And once he realizes like, this situation is that, I'm going to chilly transition to just being a cold-blooded killer, because I know these people aren't actually people.
What'd you think of the whole action scene in this factory? Because this huge sequence with Harcourt and Vigilante on one side and Peacemaker and Adebayo on another, and Peacemaker's just blowing people away before they even see him thanks to his X-ray helmet. What did you think of this? I thought it was
so clever. I thought it was a clever way to incorporate, all the helmets that they talked about in episode 1, and now we're getting to see them in action. I thought it was great. I mean, the X-ray vision looks so cool. The helmet looks incredible, always has. The character design is so good on the costume. And we're just blowing people away, moving through this. A lot of cool, interesting. The different rooms, the way they were laid out, the way the camera movement in the different situations, the way it was following the characters. I thought it was great. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, it's a very engaging action sequence, and so they find out there's way more butterflies than they anticipated, like way more, because of the fact that the whole plant is taken over by them practically. And Vigilante and Harcourt are sort of overwhelmed by their side of butterflies. And I just want to talk about how the butterflies are portrayed because of their like animalistic screams, and the way like when Harcourt and Vigilante lock themselves in like their server room, like the way that people just throw themselves against the door, like they're not human, like they don't care about. I mean, they're not, but like the way the actors playing them look, the way they throw themselves against the door, it's like terrifying. What do you think of the butterflies at this point, now that we know what they are and what they can do?
It was giving me World War Z vibes there on the on the door when Vigilante and Harcourt got caught in the door. I mean, the way they swarm, the way that how quickly they move, it's genuinely terrifying, and it's one of those, like, you don't really expect it, right? It's not the kind of show, but like, and it wasn't going for a horror angle or anything like that, but they were like genuinely terrifying and very hard. I mean, the fact that, we'll get to in a second, like what Peacemaker has to do to get rid of them. I mean, it's all out, like it's not holding anything back.
Yeah, so Harcourt and Vigilante are trapped in the server room, and something's in there with them. We don't know what yet, and they get attacked, and Economos is trying to figure out what's going on in the van while he's trying to communicate with them. And Peacemaker and Adebayo try to go and help them, and then Peacemaker shoots another butterfly, and one of them tells him there's this great like one-liner moment where he's like, the butterfly's like, Charlie, our guardian angel's protecting us. They're trapped with him. And then Peacemaker just goes like, looks like he's been slacking, and he just shoots him in the face.
So good.
Yeah, there's some great one-liners in here. James Gunn's good at one-liners, but Peacemaker gets to the door and it's being swarmed by groups of people, butterflies. So he takes out from his pack a Russian tank shell taped to a grenade or tied to a grenade that he just invented this morning. He told Adebayo, and he throws it, tells them to eat peace, and then it just blows up with some awesome slow-mo explosion shot with Adebayo and Peacemaker jumping for cover. What did you think of that part, Jackson?
Oh, so good. So good. The slow-mo was I mean, we've seen it 1,000 times, right? But I thought it was really well done. The one-liner again, so good. I mean, he just knows. Gunn knows how to do it, right? I mean, the whole team behind the show knows how to do it. They're just completely on board with the insanity of it all, and it works so well.
Yeah, so they managed to get inside, and then we figure out that because Gunn was leaving sort of like little teasers last week about something going on with a gorilla going missing.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the TV in Peacemaker's father's house, on the news and the newspaper about a gorilla going missing from its enclosure. And then we find out a butterfly has taken possession of a gorilla's body, and it can talk in the body, and it's absolutely terrifying. And so Peacemaker and Harcourt, Adebayo, Vigilante, they all fight the gorilla, trying their darndest, shooting it, stabbing it, but nothing seems to be working. And Peacemaker is about to die from it. And if you want to talk about what happens, Jackson, after that point.
So, right, I mean, this thing has everyone on the ropes, right? I mean, it's a full-grown gorilla, just beating everybody down. You know, Vigilante gets a nice hit in one, but, can't bring it down. And, oh, man, what a moment. What a moment. You're standing there, you think it's about to, it's over for Peacemaker, and the chainsaw comes through, right through the chest of that gorilla. And you wonder, oh, my Lord, did Vigilante actually sneak in his chainsaw without anyone noticing? And then as it goes through and it cuts up, you see Diebeard himself cutting that monkey right through the chest, and you're like, good Lord, what a moment. And
it's so graphic.
It's so graphic in the best way. And then as soon as he falls short, he falls over, his body falls over. The way that Economos just walks over and puts his hand out, like those badass action heroes, just like, let's go, brother. And
taking off his glasses that are covered in blood.
What a moment.
Bro, he looks so shocked when he realizes what he's done when the gorilla just falls over. I forgot to mention earlier, it's like a Chekhov's chainsaw, I guess, in this case, because Vigilante showed the chainsaw at the beginning before the whole action scene started. He's in the van and he really wants to bring the chainsaw out, and Harcourt's like, no, so he leaves the chainsaw in there with Economos, and you don't think you're going to be able to see it, but it does pay off. That was incredible. Yeah, I love it because they all feel so genuine and real, like real coworkers that learn to respect each other, because he sticks his hand out, and then Peacemaker is just like, Economos, you stud. And they're just laughing about it, and Economos like, yeah, I am a stud. He's just so happy that he was able to really be a part of the team and not just be on the computer, It's a real nice moment that I gotta mention, like the CW shows never did for their guys in the chairs. I guess maybe Cisco.
I mean, they tried, right? And sometimes they would fail horribly, I mean, how many Felicity moments have we seen blow up in, Yeah, we don't need to get into that.
She would have nuked the gorilla.
She would have diverted the one nuke to another location.
So then there's a really, really heartfelt moment. James Gunn is good at doing these. It feels like a scene ripped straight out of a Guardians of the Galaxy film where they're all vibing in the music, and Harcourt finally, I guess she's like the Gamora of the situation. You see her nodding her head a little bit to the music. They're listening to 11th Street Kids, a song they were bonding over before. Everyone's dancing, and she's like nodding a little bit, and then Peacemaker, I guess, who could also be the Star-Lord of the situation, he's like, you see, not bad, huh? And then she's like, yeah, not bad. And Vigilante's doing the just most horrid dances and movements with his hands. What'd you think of that whole happy scene after the mission?
How awful. And then, we got Economos even getting in there. Everyone was having a good time. Adebayo was like losing it because she always gets so pumped up after these kind of crazy situations. And Harcourt, is being the one, the Scrooge, who's at first she's like, you guys don't know. But then, she's probably gone on these missions 100 times, and they're always, these black ops, cold-faced, killers who have no, emotion and no reaction to what all that's going on, no camaraderie. But she finally gets into this moment. She lets herself be free, and she lets herself smile, and then she takes a photo, which is so good.
Yeah, it's so wholesome. She's
She
like
wants to
finally
capture
starting
the
to learn to
moment.
love them. Yeah, she takes a picture of all of them just vibing in the moment.
And it's clear, like she finally just lets it go, and it's like, oh, thank God, like we can all be a happy family now if you just like get the monkey off your shoulders. No pun intended.
The gorilla, I guess, in this case. And then after that, we get a really weird, creepy, deep state moment, like they've been talking about every episode, where Sophie Song wants to complain because Auggie Smith is still in prison because of Murn. He fixed the fingerprints yet again, and it's still Murn. Like fixing it so that Auggie Smith goes back to prison.
Right.
Sophie Song, she's like, you know what? I'm going to take this to my captain. She goes to the police department, and now it's the guy that Murn contacted. Now he's somehow been put in the place of the. He took over the police department, and it's really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
It's
eerie.
unsettling from Sophie Song's perspective, and also from ours too. I mean, we know what's going on, but it's still unsettling.
Yeah, much more for us than her. I mean, she doesn't know him from a hole in the wall, right? I mean, she doesn't. But we just saw this guy and how dangerous he can be. I mean, at least they teased it, and so we know this is dangerous.
He starts talking down to her, saying that she's just a woman who wants to try and prove herself in a workplace of men, and it's a very interesting sort of meta commentary on that sort of power structure. But you could tell she's undeterred because it ends with her going to a judge who happens to be named Judy to go talk about getting a warrant for Peacemaker's arrest because she's determined, man. Annie Chang plays her so well as someone who's determined, like you said. I never thought about it like that, but like you said, a Jim Gordon type. But I thought it was a really good way to end her story arc for this episode. And after that, with everyone gone their separate ways after the mission, Harcourt creates a group chat called the 11th Street Kids. What do you think of that whole moment where they're all just like interacting in the group chat?
Oh, so good. I mean, come on. I mean, it's what everybody does, right? It's just the way. It's such a real life moment where oh man, look what we all were doing, and we all look so stupid, ha ha ha, and everyone sends their funny messages. I mean, so it's wholesome. It's such a, and for her to do it means so much more.
Yeah, it's a nice moment. Vigilante sends a completely unnecessary mermaid emoji, which I'm going to be doing now forever.
Explains, he thinks it's the perfect emoji.
He says it's holistic. I don't know what goes on in Vigilante's mind, but the way they show how unhinged he is, like they go back after the mission, they're all hyped. Murn's like, he's like, good job, guys. And then Vigilante's like, so they could do it in Chihuahua too? And she's like, why would you want that wouldn't be cool. She's like, why would that be cool? And then Vigilante just goes, you tell me. And then she's just like, it's not cool. And he goes, exactly. And he just starts losing his fucking mind laughing. I'm sorry, pardon my language. No. Marcos will censor that out, or if he doesn't, oh well.
Oh,
but
well.
I just thought that was so funny. Like Vigilante is so unhinged, and they showed in the most like subtle ways because he makes no sense. Like when Peacemaker was making fun of him earlier in the episode at the very beginning, and when he was saying that he made fun of his penis size, and he's like, I didn't care because I don't have emotions like everyone else. So I'm like, wait, what? But he's a very interesting character. And then it ends with like sort of in the last couple scenes with Adebayo and Peacemaker. Waller's sort of been egging Adebayo on from the shadows to place this journal, Peacemaker's diary, it's labeled, like from a forger, to place it in his apartment for yet unknown reasons, or in his home. So she sort of like, manipulates him, starts showing the Waller in her, and gets him to invite her inside, and then they're having drinks. Peacemaker's finally opened up to this team. He sees them as a family, sort of like a team, and it's unfortunate because in this vulnerable moment, that's when she decides to take advantage of him and get inside his home and plant this journal. What'd you think of that, Jackson?
It's tough because you could tell, she was apprehensive to do it. She got there, she was having a good time. They were, talking back and forth, shooting the crap, talking about Harcourt and, whether she likes him or not. And, it was really good. They have a good chemistry, and And obviously, you always have to have that turn, right? The tragic turn where the person who does not want to betray the person that they've come to befriend or love in some cases, not here, but in some cases, and they still have to do it. And she puts that journal in there, and there's obviously going to be some repercussions here in the next couple episodes, but it's a bummer, but you understand why, right? I mean, she's here for a reason. She needs this money. She needs to get out. She needs to protect her family, and unfortunately, it's going to come at Peacemaker's expense.
Yeah, so it takes a toll on her ride home because she leaves as soon as she does it. Like, she leaves Peacemaker's home and she's sort of struggling, so she goes back to the office where Murn is still working, and Peacemaker leaves his X-ray helmet there. She picks it up, puts it on, is looking around, and she sees that Murn's a butterfly. The truth is revealed. She tries to run away. It's all dramatic outside. It starts raining. Murn throws her off, takes her gun, pushes her down, and she's being cornered by him, and it just cuts away. End of episode. What'd you think of that cliffhanger?
I mean, the old rule, they don't die on, you don't see them die on screen, they're not dead. So obviously she's not dead.
Yeah.
But I hope that, they're able to come to terms, because, I like this Murn character as well. And I hope we come to learn that the butterflies aren't as bad as we think they are, and he's not going to get his face blown off, and that he's not some evil trying to take over the world kind of situation,
Yeah.
I just feel for her, because she was going to go home and try to help her marriage, and obviously that's not gonna be on the agenda first thing the next morning. So, it's a great cliffhanger. It might be one of the best the show's done so far. It's we're finally this plot is finally in full gear after all these good episodes of setting up these characters and the situation, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Only 3 episodes left. It's crazy. Yeah, it's a really interesting cliffhanger. I really like Murn. I think James Gunn doesn't write one-dimensional characters like that. I don't necessarily think he's evil, but I guess we'll have to see until next week, right?
Absolutely.
Any last thoughts on the episode, Jax? Anything you want to say?
I think we hit all the points. I mean, I appreciate you having me on and doing a great job hosting this, because
Thanks,
it's
man.
so much to talk about in these shows.
Yeah, I think I write too many notes because I'm scared that I might miss something. Like, it looks like the writings of a madman on my.
I mean, with the James Gunn thing, you never know what kind of complex stuff that he's throwing under there, and you're gonna have to pick up on. You obviously do a good job of it. So
Thanks,
just happy,
man.
excited to see where next week goes.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Anyone who's still listening, who does listen to this podcast, I appreciate it. You can listen to all of our other videos on our YouTube channel. We cover a bunch of different things, sometimes do interviews here and there on the YouTube channel. But you can for sure follow us on our Twitter at Full Circle Cine, where we cover news, reviews, entertainment exclusives, all that kind of thing about movies and television and what have you. So go ahead and follow us on there and check out our reviews on fullcirclecinema.com, where we'll still be covering Peacemaker Weekly written there too. And where can they find you, Jackson?
You can find me at JacksonHayes67 on Twitter, and Full Circle Cinema. Check all of our stuff out, and make sure to subscribe and watch next week's episode as well.
Yeah, he doesn't tweet that much, but you should.
I'm always lurking though.
I'm sure he'll follow you back. If you follow him, I guarantee you will get a follow back from Jackson.
I appreciate that.
I guarantee you that. And if he does not, I will give his phone number next week. I will.
Okay, that works.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. You guys have a good one. See you guys next week for the next episode. Bye.